This is the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich, founder of Abich Financial Services.
Abe, there are people looking online, trying to get some information about how to manage all the headlines. I don't care who's in the White House, what's happening on Wall Street. I fully believe it's the 24-hour news cycle digital world we live in. It's never going to slow down for us. Pay attention, everybody.
That's probably true, unless maybe you're on a small little remote island in the Caribbean.
If only.
Which you can go to from
That's
time
right.
to time.
That's right. That's right. Dreams come true.
But that's right. There's always going to be things going on, Heather. I mean, there's wars, elections, tariffs, all kinds of stuff that could spook the markets, maybe spook yourselves if you're watching the news too much. But one thing we know for sure is when we focus on our long-term plan, our long-term financial and retirement plan, when we focus on the time in the stock market, when we focus on being patient, being prudent, being diligent, being committed to our long-term plan, that's one of the things we can control and what we want to, help our clients with as much as we can. And that's how you can help yourself as well, is to not pay too much attention to the news cycle and not be logging into your retirement accounts, 50 times a day.
I know.
Either
I know.
looking at the balances every single hour, you can drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Focus on the things that you want to enjoy in retirement. And the money is obviously important, but when you have a plan that's automated and set up and can weather the ups and downs of the market, which we talk about here every single week, that's when you can retire with added confidence.
Well, which is what we all want, despite what we see going on in the world right now. Nobody seems to have told Wall Street about all of the headlines that we're reading. The market has piled up some solid gains lately, Abe, even with all of the volatility in the economy and in the world. This is Taylor Riggs on Fox Business.
When you look at the fundamentals, the S&P 500 revenue is up 12.5%. Earnings are up 30%. Things are good for now. But this is a market that's thinking 6 months from now, things are going to be a lot better than they are today.
So she mentioned the market thinking 6 months from now. So if the market's always trying to price in what's coming next, should investors do the same? Can we even do that? What signals do you lean into and trust more when you're making decisions for somebody who's close to retirement?
Great questions. Yeah. Number one, you don't want to be trying to time the market for sure, because that's darn near impossible, if not impossible. But believe it or not, people still come in the office every now and then saying that they want to get back to a certain value that they were at. They don't want to make any changes until then, or they're holding on to positions that are substantial. It might be Apple stock or Nvidia stock or just something that's either done really well, or maybe it's down and they're waiting for it to come back. We see that all the time. Or just maybe they're spooked by something going on in the news cycle and they want to wait till things stabilize. But when you wait, you potentially miss out on those gains. There's all kinds of statistics out there that show that if you just miss a handful of days in the stock market in a calendar year, that you miss out on the majority of the gains sometimes that whole year. And we've had some conversations, earlier this year about clients just kind of wanting to get our opinion on where things might be headed. And all I kept telling our clients is that, look, focus on your long-term plan. It's time in the market. Just as quickly as things can turn around for the worst, they can turn around for the good as well. And that's what we've seen here lately with the markets. I mean, the fundamentals out there are good, but obviously the conflict with Iran is leading the way with the recent market volatility over the last few months. So I think not focusing on the trees, but focusing on the forest, if you will. Like don't get so bogged down on the day-to-day and what's going on, but look out 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Is what you own, is what you're invested in good for you for the next 10, 20 years. I think that's the perspective we should take on our financial plans and investments. We just helped a client that actually lives here in Northern Virginia and South Carolina. They're retiring at the end of this year, early 60s, about a 60-40 desired allocation mix between their stocks and fixed income, $4.5 million saved. And they came to us with no plan and needing a roadmap to follow to help them transition, Heather, from their working careers, which they've done really well in, almost $5 million saved, into full retirement in their early 60s where they could live easily another 30, 35 years.
Right.
Yes, they've saved almost $5 million, but it's got to last them a third of their lives. And that is daunting for a lot of people to realize and kind of accept, right? That we're going to retire. The paycheck I was getting from my employer is going to end. And instead of saving and accumulating and contributing to all of my accounts, I'm going to start pulling money out. It takes a while for some people to really understand that. And then for some people, they can't wait to get started, right? Because this is what they've worked 30 to 40 years for. Yeah. It's a mix, but when you have an income strategy, a retirement roadmap that puts that whole junk drawer together, that 30 to 40 years of stuff that you've accumulated into a well thought out plan and shows you what kind of investments you have, where your income's going to come from, and then how to protect against all the risks out there that can mess up that $5 million for this couple, that's when people can start retiring with more confidence and more clarity.
Yeah.
So one of the first things we did for this couple is we put together a portfolio X-ray and analysis. They told us they desire to be a 60-40. It's a classic investment mix for someone in their 60s. We found out that they were actually a 90-10.
Wow.
90% in stocks and equities, 10% in fixed income and treasuries and things like that. One of the many reasons why they got to almost $5 million of accumulation.
Sure.
But realizing, wow, there's a drastic difference there between where we're at today, how we're invested today, how we should be invested to get this money to last us the next 30 plus years. That was discovered through a portfolio X-ray and analysis so they could understand where they are today and what needs to change. If you're listening right now, you're also 55 or older. Maybe you're also in your early 60s, looking at retiring here in 2026, 2027. You don't have a plan. We want to help you put together a plan together as well. And it might start with an X-ray of all of your investments and an analysis for you to get a good understanding of where you are today and maybe where you should be down the road. If you're 55 years old and older, you've saved $500,000 or more in investable assets that we can help you manage and we can help you with. We want to offer you the same portfolio X-ray and analysis that we offer to this couple here in Northern Virginia that help them to really understand where they are today and where they should be headed forward. Complimentary.
All right. So we wait all winter for the warmer weather to come. And then we sit there and say to each other, I can't believe it's already May. Can't believe it's already time for Mother's Day. By the way, FYI, everybody, it is time for Mother's Day. Don't forget about your mom. Buy your cards, buy your flowers. May 10th, the month of May, is when we celebrate moms. And you and your mom, Abe, you have such a special relationship.
We do.
She poured so much love into you and your brother, raising you guys.
She did.
You've actually spoken before. You were telling the story about your mom and the lessons that you learned from her about, clipping coupons and making every penny count and every dollar stretch.
Yeah, I mean, she taught us hard work. She taught us how important our faith is. And yeah, you're right. Clipped every coupon out of the Washington Post back in the day. And so happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
If you think about back to what your mom taught you when it comes to money, like Abe was just pointing out, for a lot of us, we can remember seeing mom clip coupons, stretch a paycheck, or remind you to never carry a credit card balance because she was smart with money, as so many smart women are. But things like investing, compound interest, and market diversification, those things may not have been part of the conversation. That missing piece has quietly followed women into retirement for generations, Abe. When we talk about the financial literacy gap between men and women, what does that look like in real life? In retirement?
I think a lot of couples out there are kind of like my mom and dad were when we grew up. And we grew up just in a strong Christian home, but in an old school traditional sense. My dad made a lot of the decisions and he led with the money decisions and the finances. And I'm sure my mom and dad were in sync to some extent on that, but he just kind of led in that area. And I think that's very common for a lot of households today, whether it's the wife or the husband. But a lot of times it is the husband leading in those decisions. And then a lot of times the wives are not purposely kept out, but just the husband will lead so much with the investments and the 401ks and all those things that a lot of times the wives don't have a clue like what's going on. And that's not great. Right? Because men don't live as long as women on average.
We've talked about this before, like the great wealth transfer that's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to the spouses first, and the amount of money that's being handed over to women right now with baby boomers is enormous.
Right. And a big reason why a lot of our married couples come in and the husbands lead, that decision and come in for the appointments is because the husbands want to make sure that their wives are taken care of because they understand, both spouses understand, wow, if something happens to the husband, and in so many situations, the wife would not know where to turn and how to start and how to pick up all the pieces. So that's a big reason why a lot of married couples come in. And so I highly encourage you, ladies, if you're out there and if you're listening and you say, that sounds like me and I just don't know as much as I should, get involved, whether it's with us, whether it's somebody else, get involved, try to learn as much as you can. so that you know what's going on. But yeah, you're right. There is a pretty big gap, although things are improving with women and money and investing and finances and education, there is still a pretty big gap. And we work with a ton of single, divorced, widowed women a lot. It's a big portion of our client base.
Okay.
And so we really understand the needs that women have specifically in retirement and work with a lot of women in retirement. And we just helped a lady here recently. She's 72 years old, just approaching RMD time. She's got $3 million saved, lives in Loudoun County, a widow, recently here in the last about 2 years.
Okay.
She and her husband owned a very successful set of businesses here that they recently sold, or that she's kind of sold off since her husband has passed. And in terms of the investment advice they were getting, they had been working with a phase one advisor, typical advisor helping them with stocks and bonds and save and accumulate and get to retirement. But realizing, she always understood that they were taking on way too much risk. And even before the husband passed, didn't really have a plan to transition into retirement successfully.
Okay.
Like some people just retire and they still don't have a plan. And although that plan may work for you, the no plan may work for you for a couple of years. It doesn't mean it's going to work for 30 years.
Not having a plan is a plan.
I know. So a lot of people realize that. And sometimes people are 5, 10, 15 years into retirement. They're like, you know what? There's a lot of things I haven't planned for, and I've made it into retirement this far successfully, but I still could really benefit from a detailed, well thought out, specific, actionable plan. For me, it's not just the money, people. It's way more than just the money.
Yeah.
It's everything you want to do with the money, and it's all the ways that you should be thinking about protecting it and preserving it to last you 30 to 40 years. Working with a phase one advisor for over 30 years, taking on too much risk, no real succession plan to transition into retirement. We put together a retirement roadmap where she learned more about her investments, the risk she was taking, the income, RMDs coming up in a year, taxes, healthcare, a clear path forward and plan that would allow her to get into her later years. That was all done and discovered through a retirement roadmap, a plan she could follow and track several times a year with us, a local firm that so many people want to meet with in person. And she's now a lot more confident in her plan than she was. If you're listening right now and you say, you know what, Abe, I don't have that roadmap. I've got the money saved, but I'm a little concerned, right? I'm not 100% confident in what I have going. I need a roadmap. I could benefit from that. Well, if you're 55 years old and older and you have saved $500,000 or more of investable assets we can help you with, we want to offer you the same retirement roadmap, complimentary.
Abe and his team, they're here to help you do that. So it's theretirementkey.com to start the conversation, or you can just click on the links we've got posted in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Key Podcast with Abe Abich. To learn more about Abich Financial Services, visit theretirementkey.com and join Abe for his radio show, The Retirement Key, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 8 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5 p.m. Abish Financial Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor with the SEC. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and the content of this communication has not been approved or verified by the United States Securities and Exchange Commission or by any state securities authority. The information contained in this material is intended to provide general information about Abish Financial Wealth Management and its services. It is not intended to offer investment advice. Investment advice will only be given after a client engages our services by executing the appropriate investment services agreement. Information regarding investment products and services are provided solely to read about our investment philosophy and our strategies.